So right now, the list of bands and artists is 612. These are artists that were referred to me in comments because I made a video complaining about how all music sounds the same, and a lot of you told me I was full of shit. But instead of getting mad, I made a list and started checking them out, and I liked a lot of them. And as a producer, it has had a huge impact on me. It's actually been very inspiring. So I started making videos about them, and hopefully I can turn you on to some music you've never heard before. This is episode 3. One of the most recommended bands is the group Hanabie. If this footage looks a little familiar to you, it's because on the last video in this series, I made a mistake and used this clip when I was talking about Bandmade, which probably happened because sometimes I'm working late at night and I just made a mistake, so my apologies. Hanabie was formed in 2015 by 4 high school friends. And they started playing live shows while they're still in high school and continue to do so during the whole time that they're in college. They're known for combining nu metal, hardcore, and heavy rock, and combining that with Harajuku aesthetic. Harajuku is a style of dressing that's very colorful and attention-grabbing. There's a whole culture behind it. The band calls their music Harajuku core. The name Hanabie comes from a Japanese word that means a spring day that suddenly gets cold, where winter just kind of suddenly comes back for a day, and it's a reference to the fact that the band's birthdays are all in either spring or winter months. In 2024, Hanabie became the first Japanese band since X-Japan, as well as the first all-female Japanese band to play the main stage at Lollapalooza. Their music has been featured in multiple Japanese TV shows, and they've written the opening themes for the anime series Momentary Lily and Araiguma Kasadai. You know, I'll see comments where people will talk about the band and say things like, it's just a big gimmick, you know, the way they dress and the way they look and all that kind of stuff. I just want to know, did you say that about these bands? Look, they've been together for 10 years. They started out as a high school band, and now they're touring the world. You can't really argue with that. I mean, they're killing it. They look great. I think they sound great. And I'll tell you what, they're rocking out harder than I ever did. A band that had even more recommendations is Lovebites. Lovebites was formed in Tokyo in 2016, and they say that they were heavily influenced by British heavy metal, which is actually really interesting to me because as I was listening to them play and I'm listening to the singer Asami sing, and the way she holds out her long notes and does her vibrato, it really got me thinking about David Byron from Uriah Heep, which was one of my favorite bands ever, and not too different from Ronnie James Dio and his very operatic type of singing. That's cool. The band decided to wear all-white clothing as opposed to the stereotypical black to contrast with their heavy sound, which actually works. You know, when I started watching them, I was kind of like, why are they dressed this way? Like, what are they doing? And I was like, actually, it's kind of cool. You know, in a weird way, it kind of actually makes them seem heavier and harder. But what really sold me on this band was watching videos of their live concerts, especially this harmonized guitar solo from their song, We the United. That's just epic. They released their first EP in May of 2017. The recordings were originally just supposed to be a demo to try to get a record deal, but the label that signed them liked them so much, they just had it remastered and put it out. Lovebites also wrote the song Winds of Transylvania, which is the opening theme for the anime series Vlad Love. Their first world tour was in the summer of 2024, playing in 16 cities, 10 countries, including 4 sold-out shows in Europe and 3 in America. There's also this other thing that I find really interesting, the amount of releases that they've had. There are 4 studio albums. There's The Awakening from Abyss, Clockwork Immortality, Electric Pentagram, and Judgment Day. There are 4 EPs, the Lovebites EP, Battle Against Damnation, Glory Glory to the World, and Lovebites EP2. There are 7 live albums, and then they have a compilation album that they've done. This band has been busy. It's amazing what they've accomplished in this amount of time. That's just incredible. There are a lot of these all-female Japanese metal groups, and I'll eventually get around to all of them, but I'm going to do 2 more in this episode. The first one is Nemophila. Nemophila formed in Tokyo in 2019 and released their first single, Oirin, in February 2020. The original guitarist for the group, Saki, said this: "The most important thing in Nemophila is to play hard music like metalcore, but make it Udifua, which means fluffy and smooth, to give it more of a personality. Traditionally, rock bands have a strong masculine image. The concept is to stay close to ourselves rather than forcibly portraying our female identity as masculine. We thought it was interesting to make the cuteness of something fluffy come together with intense metal parts. You can feel it in the courses of Dissension and Lighty, but also in our behavior on stage. And one of my favorite things about this band is the fact that they've been putting out a series of these videos here where they're all just playing together in a room. It's like a rehearsal room, probably a studio room or something like that. Some of these are cover songs. It doesn't seem like they're doing a whole lot of overdubs. I've heard a couple where maybe there's some keyboards and stuff like that. But what's cool about it is you just get to see this band playing together without a bunch of fancy lights and costumes and all that. They're just playing, and you can see the gear they're using. What's that foot pedal she's using there? Oh, look at that. She's using an Ampeg bass amp. Cool. But to me, that just kind of brings like this more immediate realness to the group, which I think is really, really cool. I dig them a lot. And then there's Babymetal. Babymetal was formed in 2010 as a kawaii metal band. Now, kawaii metal is also known as cute metal or kawaii core, which is a blending of heavy metal and J-pop. And it was put together more as a concept group. There's this whole mythical story behind the group, like how they came together and where they get their inspiration from. And all this was put together by a producer named Kobayashi Ki, also known as Koba Metal. The main members are Su Metal, Moa Metal, and Momo Metal. The recordings are made with session musicians, and the live touring band is made up of a rotating cast of musicians known as the Metals of God or the Kami Band, which they're all incredible musicians, and there's some footage here of them performing, which is absolutely incredible. I'll put the links in the description. Now, I'm not too crazy about the whole manufactured band thing and thought about not putting them in this episode, but I gotta tell you, they are one of the biggest groups in the whole Japanese female metal scene, and they've got respect of some legends. Like Rob Zombie, who in response to negative comments from his fans said, "These three girls perform with more energy than 90% of the bands we play with." And Rob Halford from Judas Priest, who had just performed with them, said, "Babymetal is the future of metal." They also released a song called Brand New Day, which featured Tim Henson and Scott LePage from the group Polyphia. And most importantly, they did a song with Electric Callboy, which that seals the deal for me. At the beginning of their 2016 world tour, Babymetal became the first Japanese act to headline Wembley Arena. And they also had the largest sale of merchandise for a single-day event in the arena's history. And they also had the highest ever entry for an album into the UK charts for a Japanese act. They ended this tour with 2 sold-out nights at the Tokyo Dome, which each night had something like 55,000 people in attendance. That's pretty big. I wanted to give credit to the incredible band that is backing them up. Now, these are the credits I was able to find online for past and present members. If I missed anybody, please let me know in the comments below. This next band is a group I've been following for years and I love, and when I saw that people were recommending them, I thought, I just need to put them in this episode because everybody should know about them. And that group is Vulfpeck. Vulfpeck was formed in Ann Arbor, Michigan in 2011 by Woody Goss, Jack Stratton, Theo Katzman, and Joe Dart when they were going to music school together. The concept of the band was inspired by the legendary groups of recording session musicians such as the Wrecking Crew, the Funk Brothers, and the Swampers. Improvisation is a huge part of how they develop their songs, and their songs don't follow typical song structure. When they're in the recording studio, they record live, the full band together playing at the same time. And most of the recordings are full takes. They're not doing a bunch of editing like most bands do nowadays. They're the real deal. What I've enjoyed the most about this band is watching their live concerts, where they're often joined by Joey Dosick, Antoine Stanley, Corey Wong, and Jacob Jeffries. And since they're improvising all the time, every performance sounds completely different. You never know what's gonna happen, and it's just damn incredible. And they are an independent band who's had success. They're one of the first bands to sell out Madison Square Garden without a backing record label or management. And is another example of an independent band that has had success outside of the music industry. Oh, and that reminds me, they managed to raise $20,000 to fund a tour by releasing an album on Spotify called Sleepify, which consisted of 10 30-second long tracks of silence, and they encouraged their fans to play the album on loop while they were sleeping. Initially, Spotify didn't want to pay the band, but they eventually did, and then later on changed a few things at how they are doing things at Spotify. All of the band members do side projects or solo albums. Joe Dart, the bassist, who's incredible. I mean, they're all incredible, but Joe, oh my God. He's got his own line of basses. I've spent most of my life in the recording studio carefully crafting albums, inspired by the way records like the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club was made, or Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, or the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. But I've also worked with groups like this that do a lot of improvisation and record all together as a group, and when groups like this perform live, they end up connecting on a level that's really deep and instantaneous. They end up becoming this one thing, this single entity, and they do stuff that can't ever be recreated twice, and it is a beautiful thing. You should definitely check these guys out. When I first saw this band's name on the list, I figured it was some sort of hip-hop electronic group that uses loops and stuff like that, but I was dead wrong. Dirty Loops is a group from Stockholm, Sweden, and is made up of Jonah Nielsen on keyboards and lead vocals, Henrik Linder on bass and backing vocals, and Aaron Mellengard on drums and backing vocals. They formed Dirty Loops in 2008 and gained recognition for their YouTube videos of their own unique interpretations of cover songs, which now I realize I've actually seen them before, and I thought they were incredible. Their music is jazz, rock, fusion, classical, funk, electronic, soul, movie score. It's kind of everything. And when I was researching the group, I found myself going back and re-listening to some of these songs over and over again. And every once in a while, I'd get this feeling. I'd be watching them, I'd go like, oh, this kind of made me think of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, because there'd suddenly be this classical piano part in the middle of a song, or the fact that he plays his keyboards like this on stage. And also, look how many toms there are. Kind of reminds you of somebody. When I listen to bands like this, especially Henrik playing bass, it makes me so ashamed of my own playing. And then I noticed this. He's got extra hands. I love that I can't completely define what kind of music it is that they're doing, and that they're creating the music that they want to without adhering to some sort of genre. And I love how they give credit to the people that they work with. Look at this in a lot of their videos. That's amazing. It's so rare to see that with a band. And here's another thing that I found really interesting. On their YouTube channel, they've got over 500,000 subscribers, yet there's only 31 videos. And they're not really that active on social media, certainly not as much as most of the bands I work with or most of the bands that are out there. I think that's a testament to the power of being really good and having really great music. They're touring in Europe and Japan this summer. I really hope they come to the United States. You should check them out if you get a chance to. Another group with a somewhat misleading name is Black Midi. They are an avant-garde group that formed in 2017 and were a big part of the windmill scene, which was centered around the legendary Windmill Pub in Brixton, London. They got their name from a Japanese electronic genre called Black Midi, but they don't sound anything like that. Their music is sophisticated yet unpredictable. It's noisy, it's raw, it's kind of off the cuff in a really cool, unself-conscious sort of way. They initially became known for their live performances at the Windmill Pub, where they had a residency, and it took them about 2 years to actually do an album. But what they did is when they went into the studio, instead of just recreating what they do live, they did a bunch of different things. Like they added piano and accordion and synths and drum machines. As frontman Jordy Greep explained, the idea was to do stuff that's impossible to do live. If the album and the gig are just the same, it's a bit sad. They have opened up for themselves as an alter ego band called the Orange Tree Boys. They put out 3 studio albums, 2 compilations, 2 EPs, 6 live albums, and 14 singles. I don't really understand the music. It's not really my thing. It's kind of the way I felt about Frank Zappa. I know it's good. I know it's genius. It just doesn't resonate with me. However, I can still remember most of the lyrics from Zappa's song, Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, after all these years. Go figure. Unfortunately, the band went on an indefinite hiatus in August of 2024 while the members do solo projects and stuff like that, and there's a good chance they may never get back together. But you should still check them out because if you're into Primus or Frank Zappa, you'll love this group. And frontman Jordy Greep is doing tours this summer. He's doing a bunch of shows in the United Kingdom, and he's doing a string of shows here in the United States in September, including one at the Georgia Theater in Athens, which isn't far from here. I may have to go check that out. Well, that's all I got for this episode, but don't worry, I'll be back. I've got this massive list here that I'm going to be getting through, so there'll be more videos. I've had a few people make comments that said I was playing the music too low. The reason I do that is if I get the music up too high, I will get a copyright claim, which is a problem. But the point of these videos is to get you to go listen to some new music, which you should do. I would like to thank everybody who has been recommending bands and artists. If there's somebody that you think I haven't heard of yet or that you want to support, please name them in the comments below. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and always be unique.